Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another weather forecast. So, over today and a little bit yesterday, there's been some freezing rain. It's been going through Oklahoma, Missouri, and into Illinois, kind of this region right here. And actually, I've been able to see some of this. So, on my way home from school today, I came home to this right on my driveway. So, very nice. Not really, but that's somewhere near a tenth of an inch of ice. And that much almost made me fall down on my butt. So it's kind of interesting to see how such a small amount of freezing rain can actually form ice like this. And again, that's severe, especially on a roadway. Over in Oklahoma, Reed Timmer's also been, out storm chasing like he does, and this time for snow. I'll turn off the sound here, but you can see on this tree, upwards of half an inch, he said here. That's a lot of ice. So we're going to see how that really translates, especially on the weather map itself. So I'm using a different website today. So if you approve of it, let me know. It should help see the state borders a little bit easier, right here. You can see that a little easier in Illinois, right in here. Not the best drawings, but you get the point. So this is the 500 millibar map, and down here we can see the brighter colors. This is higher winds, this is less wind. So at 500 millibars, there is this low pressure trough centered somewhere around here. A little bit hard to see, but you can see how the lines are all kind of moving like so. It means it's rotating this direction. There's also a high pressure ridge somewhere in the Caribbean. It's a little bit more down here, but same idea, right? So winds are rotating this direction, indicating high pressure. Because high pressures, unlike low pressures, they rotate clockwise. So as we talked about, low pressure goes counterclockwise and high pressure is the opposite. So essentially this is kind of creating this belt of flow right in here, right? So more winds are coming from this direction. Whoops. More winds are coming from down here, more from here, and they're kind of converging here and creating a belt of stronger flow right in this whole region here. So what I wanted to look at is a shortwave trough that is moving through Illinois and such right now. So I'm going to look at the forecast loop here, and a shortwave trough essentially means a little bit of forcing will move the air in such a way that it forces storms in a way. I would call them storms because there's not really a better thing to call them, maybe flurries. But essentially, rain is going to be forming here in Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, and even later tonight into Pennsylvania and the Northeast. If I look here, we can see really small little notch here, right? So right here, this yellow line, that follows the contour line. It kind of is bent a little bit. I'm going to go look at the NAM model over here, just because that's a little bit easier to see. So if we look at the NAM model across the contiguous United States, 700 millibars, we can really see this trough right here, right? You see this circle right here. It indicates a little shortwave, and it's very well defined here. These little notches in the flow, and that's what forms these, for lack of a better word, storms that are going to be happening. So ahead of this, on the morning of Tuesday, we're going to be seeing some freezing rain. If you look at the winter weather here, freezing rain accumulation, I'm going to zoom in here to the Midwest. We can see these brighter colors that kind of form right in the morning, right? So the way this works is that there's higher temperatures aloft in the atmosphere. If I look at 850 millibars, I'm going to go back out to the contiguous United States and look at temperature. This white line right here, that is showing freezing side and the non-freezing side. So at the surface, the temperatures are somewhere around 32 degrees, around Indiana and Illinois. But above it, it's more, 4 degrees Celsius, which is somewhere around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's warmer temperatures above the surface, which means that as snow comes down from the higher elevations, it ends up melting and falling as rain. And once that hits the surface, say this is the surface, that's going to freeze and become a sheet of ice, which is definitely not good for the roadway system. You can also see this if I take a sounding. So I'm going to take one from right around Illinois and maybe a little bit in the south as well. Both of them should show something very similar. You can see this very saturated environment. So this red line right here is showing the temperature of the environment, and the green line shows the dew point of the environment. And these are very close together. So this is going to be a very, very dense cloud deck from the surface all the way up to 12 kilometers in the atmosphere. And this little blue line right here, I'm going to draw in. This is the 0 degrees Celsius, aka 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And that means that's the freezing level right there, right? There's this little section right here of warmer air. And that is where all this snow is going to turn to rain and then freeze once it hits the surface. That's where freezing rain comes from. Same thing here in the more southern part of Illinois. You can see it even more, right? You can see this little nose looking thing and a bunch of warmer temperatures above the surface. Now, at the surface, it also isn't freezing, but it's pretty close. And depending on what happens, that could lead to some freezing rain. That's the general idea of all these. The Weather Prediction Centers also issued a similar thing, right? So if you look at ice here, you can see freezing rain and ice accumulation in this region here. So a wider swath in eastern, kind of northern Illinois and Michigan. I can also zoom in a little bit easier. So again, a pretty good chance of some freezing rain over here in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio triple point, and on the Illinois-Indiana border as well. So this whole region is going to be seeing some freezing rain. As this system moves on, it's also going to move more into the northeast in Canada, which, again, leading to even more freezing rain in that region. Snow-wise, we're not looking at anything too significant because snow and freezing rain don't really go hand in hand. For freezing rain to actually happen, the snow has to melt and become rain. So these are not going to go hand in hand. What we will see is a more freezing rain side here and a more snow-based side on the other side as well. So with that, I'm going to look further into the rain section now. So for regular rain down here in the Texan region, Louisiana, this whole section is going to be seeing, again, quite a bit of rain over the next few days. And the reason why is that high pressure and low pressure kind of working together. So these brighter colors are indicating higher flow and faster moving winds above the surface, right? So you can see here, these brighter colors stay here, and this is just continual forcing of rain and showers all over this region. It's also a very saturated area. If we look here at the Texan region, not the greatest sounding here. It's a little messy. Might be able to find a different one from earlier. But right now, the SPC has a little risk of severe weather for Tuesday. If you look right here in Louisiana, you can see a very saturated environment. Right, so at the surface, the red and green lines are very close together. There's a little bit of a drier layer, a little bit more up in the atmosphere, but even so, more and more, it's very saturated, and all of this will kind of come down as rain repeatedly, depending on how much it gets forced. And this pretty strong belt of flow is just going to force a lot of rain. The SPC, they don't really have jurisdiction over this, but if you look at the WPC, Weather Prediction Center, they have a moderate risk for excessive rainfall on day 2, as well as a day 3 outlook, basically with the same thing. So as this trough kind of glances through here, there should be a lot of rain for Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. See how that pans out in the next few days, and if there's any updates for it, I will definitely look at that. Again, severe weather-wise, I'm not really looking at too much because it's just going to be a lot of messiness. There could be some rotating updrafts, which could form little tornadoes, but otherwise, it's not the biggest threat for that region. However, there are chances for a more significant threat later on in the week. The European model will have a little bit more of a wide range, and this closed low here for Saturday could lead to some problems, right? A very rapidly rotating low pressure system right here as an exit region, which is moving opposite directions. Essentially, what this means is that above the atmosphere, there's going to be a little bit of a hole, and air from up the surface will go up to fill that hole and lead to clouds forming like so and storms. So we're going to see how that happens on that day as well. I'll probably have another update for that as it gets closer to that day, but it's definitely something to look out for, right? So again, this, all this low pressure just building up, and eventually it ejects off to the northeast as well. So I'll look at that in the future, but as a TLDR of this forecast, snowfall and freezing rain, for this region here, it'll then move more so Illinois, Indiana, northern Ohio, and southern Michigan. That's the freezing rain I expect. And then later tomorrow afternoon, probably some freezing rain in Pennsylvania, possibly some in the Northeast. Although as this gets more north and north, that warm nose kind of becomes less severe, and this mostly just becomes snow on this northern half especially. And for the rest of the week as well, lots of rainfall here in the southeast in Texas. As of now, I don't really focus too much on this section of the map just because it's still a little bit crazy for me to understand fully. But as I get closer, I am planning to expand my forecast more so to that region. I also may expand to somewhere like Europe just to kind of get that experience going. And I'm also looking out for a Saturday, so the 27th, a little severe threat somewhere around here. The European model is showing quite a bit of a big warm sector for that region, which could be quite severe. I will see everybody in the next one, and if there are any updates, stay tuned. Goodbye for now.